Hello everybody. Well, I'll say good morning because you're watching this in the morning, but I had to record this at the end of the day. This is the weekend and it's a fun park to be in for people to just come out for the day. Hint, hint. They get out here, they make a lot of noise, some are playing their music. It's just chaotic. I can't possibly film, especially with the music, because I'd have to pay copyright on the music that I'm recording. It's okay, it's good music, I can listen to it, but I can't put it on my recording. Okay, give you an update. Thursday is when I was possibly exposed to meningitis. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I've taken 3 days of medicine. Monday, tomorrow will be the 4th day. On Tuesday will be the 5th day. It's a 3 to 5 day incubation period on average. So we're probably good with no symptoms on Tuesday, and I go back to work on Tuesday. We got to film what we didn't film on Thursday when we had to cut it. So I'm working Tuesday. And then I'm going to try to figure out when I can squeeze in a visit with my son after that. Thursday or Friday, I don't know which yet. It depends on how late we film and how tired I am on Thursday. Since they're making up and they've got lots of things they're trying to do, they might make us work late. So you never know. Anyhow, one of the things that I deal with all the time is when you try to talk to people about Jesus and what went on, and they go, well, these people, they're all just eyewitnesses. What do they know? What do they care? They all get together and they concoct this little story and they tell everybody, and then they collect all this money from everybody. Well, that's a few modern day churches, but this isn't the 1st century or the 2nd century. The guys that tell the stories were eyewitnesses. Some of them maybe didn't write it themselves because they couldn't read and write, but they dictated it to somebody who could. Our fishermen probably couldn't read or write, at least initially. Maybe later on they learned. I don't know. The bottom line is, these people had this story that they were willing to die for, horribly. They weren't just ostracized and go live on the edge of town and nobody has anything to do with them. No, these people literally were martyrs. And if the one thing we learn from history is that we don't learn from history, after the church is gone through the rapture, the people that are left that realize that they didn't get it right will have an edge on getting it right. Maybe they're in a fringe cult-type religion, and they're going to see now, with everybody gone, that maybe they had it right, because everybody knows about the rapture. Everybody, except those that want to discredit anything to do with Christianity. And God has to work on them, or you haven't got a chance at winning them. But anyhow, one of the things that I can argue is that these people were willing to die for this message. Are you willing to die for a lie? I wouldn't. These people lived with Jesus. They walked with him. They watched him. They watched him as a human being and as a God. Now, he had to do the same thing that everybody else does. He's human. He had to eat. He had to sleep. He had to find a bathroom. Yes, he's human. But he's also God. And they got to see that. They got to see the miracles. One of the biggest reasons for the miracles then and in previous times and coming up is to help prove who God is and who Jesus is and who the witnesses are. To help, that's their bona fides. It's going to show you that they've got a power from God. One of the pharaohs said to Joseph, you've interpreted the dreams, you must be a man of God. So when you show miracles, you're a man of God. Okay, so they were willing to believe, to die for their belief. Matthew, probably one of the first ones to be killed, He was killed with a sword for preaching in Ethiopia. Now, I don't know if we're going to cover 100% of everybody here, but the bottom line is there are people that wrote about these martyrs are, again, believable, but when you've got multiple witnesses that tell us these things, it even gives it more credibility. Now, some people, it was written long after they were gone because they were lesser of the core group. But the bottom line is, I think the only one who didn't die a martyr was John. But he spent his last few years in prison in Patmos, which was a good, quiet place to write Revelation. Okay, so Matthew was stabbed or run through with a sword for preaching in Ethiopia. Peter was crucified. But the twist here, he said, I don't want to die like the Lord, like my Lord. Crucify me upside down. And they did. So he died of crucifixion, basically extreme pain and suffocation eventually, because you can't breathe. You can't support yourself to breathe. Eventually your body starts to collapse and you can't hold it up. So Peter, crucifixion upside down. Andrew, according to tradition, Andrew was martyred by crucifixion in the Greek city of Patras around 60 AD. Like his brother Peter, Andrew didn't consider himself worthy to die the same way as Jesus, and so he was bound and not nailed. So instead of upside down, they just tied him to a tree, to a cross which he was hung in an X shape instead of a T. If you remember the Planet of the Apes, when they had those X's up there and the people hung on them as a warning, don't enter this area, that's how he was crucified. For this reason, an X-shaped cross is sometimes referred to as St. Andrew's Cross, having the Catholic tie-in here. James. It was about this time that King Herod arrested some who belonged to the church, or to the way, as they were called back then. They weren't called Christians until later on, intending to persecute them. But he had James, the brother of John, put to death with the sword. This is covered in Acts 12, 1 through 2. This is around 44 AD. Are you willing to die this way, this horrible way, to get the message out? After the tribulation, after the rapture, the tribulation saints may have to die this way. They will be martyrs. There are martyrs right now around the world. But it will be blatant after the church is gone. Everywhere. Not just in Africa and Iran, perhaps, and in Turkey, and some of the other places that are strongly Muslim. It will be in America. There will be Christian martyrs here. America's doomed. We already know that. Our government isn't being run by our government or by rich people. It's being run by Satan in America. I hope you like living here. That's why I tell you to prep, because you don't know what's going to go on. They're going to shut everybody's food supply off here soon, and money, and everything. They don't care about human beings. Satan wants all human beings dead. So his followers are going to follow in that footstep. They'll come up with a logical reason why we just got to eliminate the population. There's just not enough food in the world for them. Not when you destroy it, there's not. Okay. Again, we talked about John possibly being the only one that lived to be old. And he died probably around 98 AD. He lived to be pretty good old age at that point. Philip. Some of the earliest traditions seem to point to him being martyred in the Greek city of Hierapolis. I hope I said that right. One of the Polycrats of Ephesus wrote in a letter to the Pope, "I speak of Philip, one of the 12 apostles, who was laid to rest in Hierapolis," and that's around 80 AD. So these are the times that they're dying, not the times that the information is being written about. The information may be gathered maybe 50, 100 years later, some as late as 300 or 400 years later, some of the ones that we're not really sure about. Bartholomew, who's probably martyred, but like many of the apostles, there are several ways it may have happened. Stories, you know how they get. The most popular and prolific tradition is that he was flayed. You think crucifixion is bad? Try having your skin cut off. Flayed and then beheaded. Beheading would have been the painless part of it, which is why most art portraying him either shows him holding or wearing his skin. Yeah. You willing to go through this for a lie? When they want to tell you that these people were just pushing this lie, their argument is feeble. Thomas. Okay, we don't have this in our Bible, but the Acts of Thomas, another book, says that he was martyred in Mylapore, I think that's right, India, where he was stabbed with spears. Doubting Thomas. He got his hole in the side too. Syrian Christian tradition specifies Thomas was martyred in this city on July 72 AD, noting that he was killed with a spear. It's on an early okay, going to have trouble with this one. I can't say it. I know how to say this word, but I've been struggling with the other ones. Ecclesiastic. There we go. Ecclesiastical calendar reads that they have him on there as being martyred. Okay. James, the son of Alphaeus, died depending on whether or not you assume he's the same person as James the Just. Some of the same names, that kind of makes it difficult, but he was nevertheless a Christian or he wouldn't have been martyred. The brother of Jesus, of course, would have been this James. James, son of Alphaeus, was mentioned twice in the Bible and was the one most obscure apostle. He wasn't really talked about that much, but James the Just was an important leader in the early church, a Jewish Christian leader. But modern scholars sometimes just agree on this, so take it for what you want. This particular James was martyred. And more than likely, if we don't have the right one was probably martyred too. They were doing that to all the leaders. Stand up and preach about Jesus and you get martyred. Jude. It's traditionally believed that Jude was martyred in Syria on his missionary journey there with Simon the Zealot. But it's unclear how reliable the tradition is because it comes from an account found in the Acts of Simon and Jude, another not included in the Bible book. A lot of these accounts were not included in the Bible because they don't believe that they were God-inspired, but they can still have historical information. The Webster's Dictionary is not God-inspired, but I looked things up in it. Okay, Simon the Zealot. There were numerous accounts of Simon the Zealot's death, but the earliest records didn't come about until centuries after his death. So here's one of them that we've got later records. So what's tradition and what's real? Like many of the apostles, it's hard to conclude exactly which tradition, if any, can be trusted, but he was martyred. Matthias wasn't one of the original members. Remember, he was drawn by Lot after Judas Iscariot committed suicide for his behavior. His suicide also should show you he wasn't totally unbelieving in Jesus. He just thought Jesus was supposed to be the Lion of Judah, and when he wasn't, he tried to force the situation. And when he realized what he'd done, he killed himself. For a lie? I don't think so. Okay. And that's covered in Acts 1, 12 through 26. Paul, one of the 12, wasn't one of the 12, but was one of the other people that are predominant in the Bible and the New Testament, so we're going to look at him. He was a Roman. He argued that point when they were persecuting him and arresting him. They were going to let him go, and then he insisted on going to Rome. So we're thought that it says in here that he was beheaded by Emperor Nero. So that puts it about 68 AD. These are the people that were there. They saw it. They're witnesses. And they were willing to die for their belief. Horribly. They just didn't get put in a cell to rot. The closest to that would be John, but they eventually let him out. And when he was writing the 3 epistles, that's when they arrested him. So he was able to do what he needed to do. Okay. I'm getting all kinds of pop-up on my phone. I got to go see who's trying to reach me. Would you be willing to die for a lie? Of course not. Jesus is real. Real people saw him. There are witnesses, hundreds of witnesses that saw him after the resurrection. We know that he died on the cross. It was verified by the soldiers who pierced his side. The people that don't want to accept it wouldn't accept Jesus if he stood right in front of them and performed 1,000 miracles. They still wouldn't accept him. They've got it programmed into their brain, which is not connected to God, to just lie about it, to just say, I don't want to believe, I don't want to know. They'll even go as far as to cover their ears. They're going to be the people that it talks about in the book of Revelation. They ask the mountains to fall on them and hide them from God because they won't accept. Like we looked at yesterday, some people will go to never-ending lengths to avoid God or doing what God wants them to do. But God will stay with you or with them. He stayed with Jonah all the way to the fish. And he finally found the button that Jonah was willing to accept his responsibility. Get out there and spread this word, and don't take no for an answer. Do it politely. Do it with love, knowing that you're not saving anybody. It's the Spirit doing the work. If the Spirit didn't prepare them first, your work will be for naught. So you got to go where Jesus wants you to go, not where you want to go, because you don't know. Let the Spirit lead you till we meet in the clouds. God bless.